What makes a great leader today? You may imagine an all-knowing superhero who stands and commands and protects his followers. Sometimes he could be a person who motivates people through challenging times, through their career progressions. But let me ask you this. Would you consider yourself a leader? Leaders have power and can influence over where they want things to go. But can every person actually be a leader? Consider a situation as hard and as heavy as having your own choices be the determining factor of a new generation. The person that rose up to all these hard times was a very courageous leader, Harriet Tubman. By getting to know Harriet Tubman, you will embark on an excruciating road to freedom for slaves. How did she gain the courage to stand up for herself and for the people around her? When did she learn to be confident and composed in the face of danger? Do you want to know how you can be a hero too? By the time you're done watching, you will learn a whole new meaning to the word freedom, how to become a leader, and how to untap your potential. Welcome to Untapping Your Potential, where we will share with you motivational stories, motivational figures, comeback stories, and public speaking tips that will keep you growing and inspire you to take action. Harriet Tubman is perhaps the most well-known of all the Underground Railroad's conductors. During a 10-year span, she made 19 trips into the South and escorted over 700 slaves to freedom. And as she once proudly pointed out to Frederick Douglass, in all of her journeys, she never lost a single passenger. Tubman was born a slave in Maryland, Dorchester County, around 1820. She was under the name Araminta Ross, her mother nicknamed Minty. At age 5 or 6, she began to work as a house servant. 7 years later, she was sent to work in the fields. Tubman became a familiar figure in the fields. She was described as a small, muscular woman, standing at 4'11", yet carrying half cords of wood like any other man in the field. She was often seen with her skirt looped around her waist and vividly colored bandana tied around her head. While she was still in her early teens, she suffered an injury that would follow her for the rest of her life. She endured a severe head injury when an overseer hurled a lead weight at her direction in anger. Stemming from that injury, Tubman continually suffered from debilitating seizures and other painful conditions. Her injury caused her to experience sleeping spells, which we know today as narcolepsy, for the rest of her life. Slavery is the next thing to hell. Tubman's owner tried to sell her, but there was no buyers for an enslaved person who fell into sleeping spells. She was instead put to work with her father, Ben Ross, who taught her how to lumber. Her condition never stopped her from doing what she wanted. Lumbering increased Tubman's physical strength and put her in touch with free black sailors who shipped the wood to the north. From then, Tubman learned about the secret communications that occurred along trade routes, information that would prove invaluable later in her life. In this mixed atmosphere of free and enslaved blacks working side by side, Araminta Minty Ross met John Tubman, a free black man she married in 1844. After marriage, she renamed herself Harriet, after her mother. Harriet Tubman's owner died in 1849. When his widow planned to sell off her enslaved human beings, Harriet feared she would be sold away from everyone she loved. She heard of an Underground Railroad. The Underground Railroad was a secret network of safe houses, boat captains, and wagon drivers who were willing to harbor fugitive enslaved people on their way north. So Tubman fled with 2 of her brothers, Ben and Harry. They eventually turned back, fearing they were lost. And in the autumn of 1849, she set out on her home, following the North Star to Pennsylvania and to freedom. Once she tasted freedom, she made sure that everyone she loved would taste it too. Tubman returned to the South 13 times to free her niece, brothers, parents, and many others. I have heard their groans and sighs and seen their tears, and I will give every drop of blood in my veins to free them. In 1850, Fugitive Slave Act passed by Congress created a more dangerous journey for any enslaved person traveling northbound. With the government compelling northern law enforcement to now capture free black Americans, Tubman's strategy as a conductor became more militant, and she began carrying a firearm for protection. By 1860, Tubman earned the nickname Moses for liberating so many enslaved people at great risk to her own life. Deeply admired by abolitionists in the North, Tubman became a trusted friend and advisor to many, which earned her role in the Union Army as a scout, spy, nurse, and confidant of generals. After the Civil War, she moved to Auburn, New York, where she turned her attention to the plight of the needy, opening her home as a sanctuary for the elderly and ill and those with disabilities. In 1863, she became the first woman in the United States history to plan and lead a military raid, liberating nearly 700 enslaved persons in South Carolina. After the war, the 13th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution legally abolished slavery, while the 14th expanded citizenship and in the 15th gave voting rights to formerly enslaved black men. I grew up like a neglected weed, ignorant of liberty, having no experience of it. She didn't settle for mediocrity, and she surely didn't want to wait to take action. She raised funds for formerly enslaved persons and helped build schools and a hospital on their behalf. In 1888, Tubman became more active in the fight for women's right to vote. In 1896, she appeared in the founding convention of the National Association of Colored Women in Washington, D.C., and later at a women's suffrage meeting in Rochester, New York. There she told the audience, "I was a conductor on the Underground Railroad, and I can say what many others cannot. I never ran my train off the track, and I never lost a passenger." All because her actions led one thing to another. She affected a whole new generation. Her life was nothing short of heroic, and the example she set is still being felt to this day. Today, it's easy to get discouraged and start to wonder if real change will ever happen. You need stories of role models from the past, motivation to keep you going as you work for a better world to live in. And not just for you, but the generations after you, and maybe a generation after them. Sometimes, when you need a reminder of what's possible despite seemingly insurmountable obstacles, you can learn a lot from Harriet Tubman. 1. Freedom isn't free. Once you're free, liberate others. If there's anything life has likely taught you, is that nothing worthwhile comes on a silver platter. Without taking control of your life, you'll always be at the mercy of other people. You have to fight for whatever you want in life. 2. Your choices can affect future generations. With whatever you do, think about how it affects those that will follow after you. You have the potential to do something significant with your life, and you'll never know what's possible until you step out of your comfort zone. And when you're in a better place, remember to go back and help others get where you are as well. 3. Become a leader. She said, "My home, after all, was down in Maryland because my father, my mother, my brother and sister and friends were there. But I was free, and they should be free." By becoming a leader, she was able to start a revolution. She gave hope to those who were oppressed, fighting for their rights and freedom. By being a leader, she showed hundreds of people that change is possible. It is achievable by working together to achieve something, a common goal: freedom. Freedom to exist, freedom to love, freedom to be happy. A single woman was able to liberate more than 700 slaves. If you don't see the change you want to see, become the change. Don't settle for mediocrity, and don't wait, and take action. Thanks for watching this video. How would you like to hear more motivational stories on a consistent basis? Do me a favor, support the channel by sharing, commenting below, and please make sure to like and hit that subscribe button to get the latest updates. Soon you will be on your way to feeling inspired.